Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
It's all about the Supreme Court, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have you along. My name is Sam Bushman. I've got James Edwards with me. We're two hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use style commentators. James Edwards is well known for his political cesspool radio program, thepoliticalcesspool.org. To learn more, to get involved, to watch it anytime you like, on demand or Saturday Night Live. Check that out. He's also the author of a book, Racism, Schmacism. That's available at his website as well. Check it out. And, James is with me now talking about what's going on in the country. And it's June, and some people want to celebrate Juneteenth. I don't. I want to celebrate James's birthday instead. Nevertheless, I realize that June is always the month. It's always the month where, the Supreme Court spends all year long, all winter, while you and I just frolic in the snow and have a good time. The Supreme Court's hard at work with their nose to the grind. I'm just kidding. They play games for like 9 months, then they come out with all these edicts in June is what really goes on. And so I don't know if you know this, but there's a bunch of Supreme Court cases in the mix right now. And they will reshape the elections, immigration, executive power, social policy. I mean, the nation's highest court enters its, quote, final month before summer recess. Even the Supremes take a recess, ladies and gentlemen.
Crazy.
Your kindergartners, your Supreme Court and Congress also all take a recess. I've never had a recess or a sabbatical in my entire life, but there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, they're going to talk about literally everything, James, is coming up and going to be released here soon. I want to get your take, then we'll talk about a couple of these topics.
Well, it is a grab bag of issues, and every single issue is one, as you mentioned, of substantial importance and of interest to this listening audience and to your humble servant and you yourself, Sam. And I will say this, I mean, again, it is very hard to be dispassionate. It's very hard to see anything beyond the current news cycle and whatever headlines are going right now. But that is another thing that you have to give Trump credit for. I know the fad right now is to dump on Trump, and there's a lot of material there. There's a lot of content there. He's giving us a lot of.
I think you got to dump on Congress and make them pay at the midterms. Let's get some people in here who will support the Donald for a change.
Well, that's another big one that ties into the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court was bold enough to rule in favor of pro-lifers, as they did, and all of this goes straight to Trump because he appointed all of these justices that are doing it. Now, they don't have a perfect record, but it is a hell of a lot better. You would have a 0% winning. You would have a 0 win percentage.
And it's not debatable, even, James.
So all of that's good, and then they gutted the Voting Rights Act, this race-based thing that was set to benefit non-whites, frankly, and they gutted this, and of course you still have this strain of beautiful loserism in the Republican Party that was coined by Sam Francis, who was one of Pat Buchanan's mentors and contemporaries and friends, a former journalist in D.C. and a friend of ours, by the way. He died right around the time we were coming on the air. But he said that Republicans would rather lose than win, and as long as they look
and
good.
Sadly, you see the writing on the wall. This is true. Look at the way Donald's behaving. Look at the way Congress is behaving. They don't have a single thing that they can literally point to and go, hey, man, we're rocking for you people. Not a single thing. And the Democrats don't have really an answer. All they have is that, hey, the other guy's the bad guy.
Well, the reason I bring that up in with regards to you talking about what the Supreme Court's about to be tackling is that they did tackle this voting rights thing, which benefited Republicans massively. And in states like Tennessee and Alabama, they have gone to bat to redistrict, and those states are pushing it through. Whereas in South Carolina, they basically said, no, well, thanks, but no thanks. We'd rather let the radical black Democrat Clyburn, maintain his seat. And so, they're just not taking the assist. They took the ball and threw it out of bounds. So you still got some of that. But the Supreme Court overall has ruled, 75-80% the way we might on any given issue in the last several years.
They've done my whole life for the most part. They really have.
and now they're going to have a chance to really just run a gauntlet, a panoply of issues that, just break them down for us. I'm looking at the list myself, but where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the campaign issue a little bit more, though. There's a little more to dig in on that one, James, in my opinion.
Are you talking about campaign finance rules? All right. See, now I see here. Well, this is another thing that is very demoralizing. If you're a conservative, or if you think that we'd be better off with Republicans in taking these seats than Democrats, is that number one, you have some of these crazy states like South Carolina. I love South Carolina. It is a beautiful state. The people there are awesome, very conservative state. We've had 2 major conferences there because we have such a good base of support in South Carolina. But they elect the wildest people you can imagine. Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott. And now they're just saying, no, we'd rather have the Democrat in than one of our own. We're not going to redistrict. All right, so you got that kind of stuff. And then you've got the overall trend of, as you said before, it's a bad midterms are always bad for the party in power. And then you couple that with a horrible economic climate right now, and the fact that because of what went on with campaign financing, basically mowing down Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie was defeated because of the way campaigns are financed. 100% is the thing, and that his defeat has totally soured the most enthusiastic part of the Republican coalition, and certainly the most energetic. This 18 to 29-year-old age demographic that voted, almost 80% for Massie, versus the oldest blocks of the voting demographic that voted almost equally for the
and Israel money
Galrain.
And everything else. Let's just tell the truth.
Well, this goes into campaign finance. So what exactly are what exactly are they going to be debating there? I mean, I doubt
they're debating
gonna...
finance rules. A lot of it has to do with, I think, districting and the maps and everything else. But a lot of it has to do with the campaign finance rules about spending and about this and about that and about, so we'll see what happens with this. The problem is that half the time when you bring something to the court, then they come back with something entirely different, walking a tightrope about kind of what you thought you were talking about. And you end up kind of talking about something different because they want to give kind of enough, I don't know what you want to say, presence to both sides or whatever you want to say. So what I'm saying is oftentimes what you go in with and what you come out with aren't even really the same discussion. James.
Well, I'd like to see what treatment they put on this issue, because it is rotten to the core. We were talking with another one of our good friends, Lou Moore, Ron Paul's former presidential campaign manager, and he spent 6 years in Washington, D.C. as a congressional chief of staff. Lou Moore on this radio network.
I've been praying for him that he can recover from the PTSD and stuff.
But 6 years there in the belly of the beast. He wasn't the district chief of staff. He was the one in D.C. for 6 years,
yes,
so he knows how it all works. But I was talking to Lou about what happened there in Massie's race, and this is just one that we can point to. But the guy who won Galrain, he raised $15-20 million, and do you know how many?
Yeah, some are even saying it's more now.
Dozens. Listen to this, folks. He won this race.
Yes, sir.
He had a total of donors from his district. Not even 100. That is but then again, he raised all that money.
You get backed by Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, buddy, and hey, they can buy any election they want, buddy.
Well, this is the point, I think, is that, Sam, you and I, John Q. Public, a concerned citizen, wants to have a representative that's going to represent the interest of our families and the people in our community, local government. We can donate a max of, like $3,000? It used to be $1,000. Now it's up to, I think, $3,200. I think $3,200 for congressional elections. I know that. That's what it is. Now, that is the
not
max.
Let James put much money in. We don't want elections to be tampered with or anything. So James, you're $3,200.
And if you send $3,500 and the candidate takes it, they're in big trouble because the max is $32. But then you can have
Tina Peters, buddy.
These foreign lobbies, can come in and dump tens of millions, and that's that's just. I mean, that's the kind of campaign financing that's legit. So I don't know exactly what aspects of campaign finance they're going to be looking at, and how they're going to decide. But it would be impossible for them to make it any worse than it is.
Well,
So
campaign finance rules. I hope the courts will do better than Congress has at setting those rules, because it's an absolute disaster dumpster fire right now, in my opinion. And you just pointed it out. Hey, you've got Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel and company that could put billions in. You've got George Soros that could put billions in, and then hey, you and I, Mark Zuckerberg can put in 400 million. Elon Musk can put in a ton of money, and you can only put in a couple of bucks, or else hey, you're going to jail. You're not even past go. I mean, it's insanity, folks. So that's number one. Number two, birthright citizenship, ladies and gentlemen. This one's huge. Donald's pushing hard on it. Will the court agree with him? We're also going to talk about presidential power over federal agencies. When we get back, we'll have James break all that down and give you his thoughts on some of these things. Because, man, we're waiting for the courts with bated breath, if you will, to see what the Supremes are going to do. I'm Sam Bushman. This is the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live.
Are you watching what's happening in our country and asking, what can I do? Join the John Birch Society in Salt Lake City, June 6th, for a powerful one-day conference. The day includes a host of respected speakers, 2 meals, and meaningful connections. You'll gain clarity on the issues and walk away with practical steps you can take to your community. Reserve your seat today at jbs.org/SLC26. That's jbs.org/SLC26.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government, and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, everybody. James Edwards with me, thepoliticalcesspool.org. We're breaking down the Supreme Court. Got a lot of decisions that are going to be coming out here this month. Any one of them could produce major national news coverage. Once opinions are released, it could dominate news for days, for weeks. It just depends on how long they want it to be. Reshape elections. So campaign finance rules, we talked about that. The next one, though, is mail-in ballot deadlines. When do you think that's going to be? So they're saying, hey, when can the ballots be approved by? They want the federal government to decide that, not the states. And I've got a problem with that, James.
Well, I've got a problem with mail-in ballots just on principle.
Amen.
This
whole
thing is just nuts. I mean,
if we at the federal level say we're going to debate the time when mail-in ballots come, or when they have to be, adjudicated by, or whatever you want to say, approved by, we're agreeing that mail-in ballots are fine when we do that, aren't we? Which that's my problem. Let's step back and say, I don't want to debate when they have to arrive. I want to debate whether they should exist in the first place.
I take a modicum of civic pride in going and casting my vote at my local polling place on election day. On election day, not even the early voting, but I mean, you've got election day, and if they say, well, the lines would be too long, make more precincts, okay? But
that's the way they used to do it all the time. They happen that way for like couple hundred years. Come on.
You've got election day, and then now you've got almost a month of early voting, And how is that not enough? You don't have in over the course of a month, 10 minutes to swing by a polling place and vote. You're that busy. Mail-in ballots should only be for people who are living abroad,
truly absentee, in the military, whatever.
Living abroad, you're an expat, you're living abroad, you're in the military, or you have a medical reason why you cannot leave the house, something like that. And I know there would be abuse of that, but at least you're limited to you've got to
but it's
have
limited, and it would be you have to
verification.
request your ballot, not just get sent out gazillion ballots and everything else. So that's justified. The bottom line, folks, is we're going to see what the Supreme Court says on this. Let's talk about birthright citizenship. Do you think Trump's going to win this one?
I hope he does, because, I mean, it's taking every bit of magic to keep the Republican Party competitive in this economic climate, as I said, with trends always favoring the other side in a midterm. I mean, it's going to have to be a combination of this Voting Rights Act that's opened up redistricting that are going to flip some seats that otherwise wouldn't have gone onto the red side of the aisle. And it's going to take them getting something that's going to limit the number of people that are voting fraudulently. Now, again, these aren't
the way you do it. The way you do it, though, is you just basically abolish the IRS, James. I'm telling you right now, everybody would be voting for the Donald Trump party right now.
If he, you know what, I will tell you this, Sam. I wish somebody
bold. Shock the world, baby. Come on, Don.
I wish somebody in the administration was listening right now, or at least doing something if they are listening. And by the way, if you're listening, LibertyRoundtable.com, there's a beautiful red oval that says donate. We got to keep this thing going, because listen, this is it. He could have made all these mistakes, all these blunders with foreign
By the way, if I start getting
interventionism.
lots of money, I'll change that oval to black, James, because we'll be in the black finally.
Yeah, that's why it's colored red, folks. But but seriously, seriously, do donate. But the work deserves it, and we got to keep it moving forward. But no, if you take all of the blunders with Iran and just everything else you may be upset with Trump about. Now, this is a great example of, I'm glad Election Day wasn't 4 months ago or 4 months later. It had to be in this particular moment. If he came out with something bold about the IRS and actually did it, it actually has to get, something actually has to happen, not just a promise that like this fund that never materialized. If he actually did something with the IRS, I do believe all of that would be absolved, and they would sweep back into retaining power. But it would have to be something like that to absolve.
But I pray for Donald Trump on the birthright citizenship, because I don't believe in anchor babies. No anchor babies, ladies and gentlemen. That was never the intent of the founding fathers, and it's been absolutely manipulated by those who want to basically get foreigners in to vote and raise them in America and create immigration difficulties, etc. Now, how about protected status for immigrants? That's on the table too, James.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, we don't know yet. We're waiting for the court to decide. But what it means is that, hey, if you get this special privilege and you were brought in by Joe Biden and he gave you a special whatever, then you can just stay on your special privilege kind of discussion. That's the way I understand it. But again, these discussions aren't finite. In other words, what does that mean? That's what the debates are about, James. What does it mean? Is Donald right? Can he do this? Can he, stop anchor babies? Can we create protected statuses for illegals and call it they're not really illegal because they're protected? Can we do that kind of stuff? And what it really comes down to is presidential power. And that's another big debate they're having before the Supreme Court. Presidential power over federal agencies. How much can Donald demand versus how much is left up to Congress? All those things are being vetted now, and the Supreme Court's going to have to answer.
Yes, and by the way, that is also what has driven up real estate to these unfathomable and unprecedented levels, is Biden letting in about 25 million, illegals, aliens, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, who now are getting, some sort of protected status. Trump has, the border is very quiet for the first time that I can ever remember. Certainly the first time in my professional career, if not my life. So that's good. But you've still got them here, and they're still driving up the cost, and you can't get a house and all of this, because it affects rent and everything else. But, so the birthright thing is just a no-brainer. I mean, if I go to Japan and have a kid, that kid isn't Japanese. I mean, that's just unbelievable. But yes, I mean, so that should be an easy one. You would think, God willing. But the ones that are coming over here, and this is another problem you've got with this ties into campaign finance too. Is you got all these corporations. They're bringing in all these H-1B visa people that are working for pennies on the dollar. They wouldn't be a living wage for an American.
Don't worry, AI will take them out. You don't have to worry about them anymore.
Oh, that's another whole issue.
I'm
I was
just
just talking to somebody else.
I'm just kidding, James. All right, listen, there's a couple of other topics before the end of the hour that we've got to mention. The next one is transgender athletes. The courts are going to decide on that too, James.
I think that's going to be one that if I had to pick one that's definitely going to go our way, it's that. I mean, that whole thing was so patently absurd back during the.
There's no such thing as a transgender athlete, James.
That really, they really were trying to push that as the next frontier in civil rights, so-called civil rights, when Biden was in office. I mean, it was during the Biden years where that really, they really made an aggressive push for that, but that never took hold culturally, and
thanks to good Lord, too, I might add.
Radical wackos that are pushing for it, but not on a societal level anymore. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think the Supreme Court will do the right thing on that one. There's not even much controversy on that one.
All right. Anyway, that one's very interesting, and we'll see what happens. But in my mind, there's no such thing as a transgender athlete. There's athletes, and they're male and female. Go look at science. Go look at God. Go look at reality. So, the Supreme Court's debating something that's not even, a real thing in totality. The final topic they're going to be discussing, again, it's always before the Supreme Court, your right to keep and bear arms. That's been challenged 66 ways from Sunday, and it's up before the courts again, James.
Well, this is another one where my principle is it good for our people? I can rail against these companies and these lobby groups that are doing things that harm the country because it's against our people. It's against what's good for my family. But the gun lobby is a pretty powerful lobby, and they have been able to.
Well, and Richard Mack and others have fought hard back in the day to make that happen. The lobby's big. The American people are armed to the teeth. So hopefully we'll see some common sense on that. I don't understand how it's so complicated when the Founding Fathers clearly said you have a right to keep and bear arms, and that right shall not be infringed. But what part of shall not be do you not understand?
Well, you know what they say, of course. They didn't. They call them assault rifles, but they didn't intend that for protection.
To me, it's a rapier.
They didn't have that.
It's not an assault rifle.
Well, they didn't have, and I don't even like calling them that. But that's what the other side is. But I will say this: as much as any issue. This is an issue that varies wildly by state, and in the state of Tennessee, for instance, you don't even have to have a learner's permit anymore. You can it's a gunslinger thing. It's like the Wild West, and you never have any trouble from unless you're dealing with urban thugs and things like that are coming.
Well, you always have trouble with criminals, and you always will, with or without guns.
Yeah, but exactly. But for most people like us,
they'll just result to the hammer in the garage if you don't give them a gun.
You just never have any trouble. So state by state, the gun rights are pretty good. If you want to move to California and New York, well, you're moving there knowing that you're going to have problems on this issue. But if you move to Tennessee or places like that, it's just wild.
Common sense, America.
There's no real threat to gun rights right now.
Well, time will tell. We'll see what the courts have to say. But, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to prep you because the courts are absolutely on docket to release a bunch of stuff, and I don't know exactly when they're coming out, but it will be sometime in June, and we will see a hardcore reality check, James.
It's a weird thing with the Supreme Court that they issue en masse all of these decisions in June, and then they just take months long vacation. I don't know why they can't work year round like everybody else has to do.
I don't understand why they don't work year round. I also don't understand why they don't work on a case and then adjudicate it and then move to the next case. Why would you want to have 50 cases, or I don't know what the number is, but why would you want to have all these cases that you're working on in parallel? If I'm working on it, I'd rather work on one, maybe two, maybe three at a time and release decisions as we go all year round and just keep releasing them, not get a big old backlog and then take a month off and then release everything all at once. And I don't even understand what they're doing. It's insanity. It's not how anybody in business works. I'll tell you that right now.
No, exactly.
Otherwise, I'll just tell my boss, I've been working for the last 8 months. You ain't seen nothing from me yet, but it's coming, buddy. Hang tight.
Congress is always on vacation, which is a blessing, of course, because the more they were there, the more damage they could do. But yeah, none of these people work.
Amen to that. Reality check. There you have it.
We got to keep score on these decisions.
We will do it. Thank you so much, sir. What do you got going on really quick for this Saturday night, buddy?
Love you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Wait, what do you got going on this Saturday night on your show?
Okay, so last week, big remigration summit in Portugal. The former head of the Border Patrol was there. Greg Bovino, I believe was his name. He was there. So we had a live report there. I think we've got the she's just the comedian Leonardo Johnny. a right-wing comedian. They do exist, and she's getting canceled everywhere, but she's made a lot of news, and I think she's going to be on this week.
Not Da Vinci, ladies and gentlemen. It's Johnny this time. We're having fun. Thanks for being alongside with the ride. Check out thepoliticalcesspool.org this weekend. I'm Sam Bushman for James Edwards and yours truly. Thanks so much for everybody behind the scenes doing all they do. Without you, we wouldn't even be here. So thank you so much, and God save our constitutional republic.